Alright, lords and ladies, time to go to the final episode of the day, which is Book of the Stranger. Beginning at King's Landing, underneath the gravesite of Baylor, Septonella enters Queen Marjorie Tyrell's cell and leads her to a private meeting with the High Sparrow. The High Sparrow asks Marjorie what she would do if he allowed her to leave that day. Marjorie replies that she wants to return to her family and her husband, Tommen Baratheon. The High Sparrow respects her love for her family but tells her that attachment leads to sin, citing his experience as a cobbler. Marjorie manages to impress the Sparrow with her knowledge of the Book of the Stranger, which she admits Septonella had read at her. The High Sparrow chuckles and agrees that Onella has a habit of reading at people instead of to them. The High Sparrow recounts how in his youth he was a womanizer and a drunkard. He underwent a conversion experience the morning after an orgy, and his drunken guests lay naked all around his house. Tired of what he was now perceiving as a meaningless existence, the High Sparrow turned his life around and became a devoted member of the Faith of the Seven. He then left his job as a cobbler and devoted his life to the poor and destitute. Believing he has found a way to reach Marjorie, the Sparrow allows her to visit her brother Loras Tyrell. She finds the dejected Loras lying on the floor of his cell. Loras has lost the will to continue resisting, but Marjorie tells him to stay strong because he is the future of House Tyrell. Loras tells him that he only wants his imprisonment to end and pleads with her to help him. Marjorie tells Loras that the Sparrow is trying to use them to break each other and again tells him to stay strong. At the Red Keep, Cersei Lannister walks in and Grand Maester Pycelle advising King Tommen to accommodate the High Sparrow and the Faith Militant. Cersei requests that Pycelle leave the room while she talks to her son alone under the pretext of meeting him for updates about the previous small council meetings. During the conversation, Thomas proposes that Iron Throne not antagonize the Sparrows further in an effort to avoid endangering Marjorie's life. Cersei reminds her son about the humiliation she endured at the Sparrow's hands and exploits Tommen's love for Marjorie. She convinces her son that the High Sparrow has no respect for kings, queens, and society. Thomas then reveals a secret that the High Sparrow shared with him. Armed with this new information, Cersei barges into a small council meeting between Kevin Lannister, Lyanna Tyrell, and Jaime Lannister. While Kevin and Lyanna are initially hostile, Cersei convinces them to listen to her. She informs the council that the High Sparrow has planned to make Marjorie do the Walk of Atonement. Lyanna is horrified that the Sparrow's plan to debase her granddaughter. Jaime then urges the council to allow the Tyrells to march their army into King's Landing, crush the Faith Militant, and bring Marjorie and Loras back to the Red Keep into Crown custody. Kevin says that Thomas expressly forbid him to use the Lannister army he commands at the city to make a move against the Great Sept, for fear that the Faith Militant will harm Marjorie in retaliation. Jaime suggests that Olenna send House Tyrell's army to the city instead, but points out to his uncle that Tommen only forbade his army from making a move, but he never expressly told him to prevent anyone else from trying, so Kevin wouldn't be breaking any commands if his forces simply stand down when the Tyrell army arrives. The Tyrell army will surround the Great Sept and tip the Sparrows into releasing Marjorie and Loras, without any blood actually being shed. And by the time Tommen finds out what they've done, he will already be happy with the outcome. Kevin's interest is now turned, but he still expresses reluctance should they fail. Cersei is able to make him change his mind by explaining his hatred toward the Sparrows for taking his last remaining son and heir, Lancel Lannister. Lyanna agrees that blood will be shed no matter what they do at this point, so spared it's the Sparrow's blood and not theirs. Anyway, at the Wall, at Castle Black, Edson Tellum watches Jon Snow pack up his things. Ed scolds Jon for leaving the Night's Watch after taking an oath, to assure him plainly that he gave his life for the Night's Watch and can't trust his Watch brothers after what happened. Ed reminds them that they both saw what happened at Hardhome and that enemy is still coming for them. At that moment, the horns sound for the arrival travelers. Sansa Stark, Brienne of Tarth, and Podrick Payne ride through the gates and dismount in the courtyard. Jon rushes out to see his half-sister Sansa for the first time since their family left Winterfell, and they embrace. Later that night, they converse and reminisce on their childhood. Sansa proposes that they take Winterfell back from the Boltons, but Jon says he's done fighting, especially after hanging Ollie. Davos Seaworth asks whether Melisandre will stay at Castle Black, and she replies she will do as Jon Snow, the prince that was promised, commands. Davos asks what happened to Stannis, and she replies he was defeated in battle. When he asks about Shireen, Melisandre is reluctant to speak. Their conversation is interrupted by Brienne, recognizes Davos and Melisandre as Stannis' former entourage. So bitter of the death of King Renly Baratheon, Brienne warns Melisandre that she does not forget or forgive. She also tells him that she executed Stannis after he admitted using blood magic to assassinate Renly. Sometime later, Jon receives a letter from Ramsay Bolton stating that he has Rickon Stark at Winterfell, and if Sansa is not returned, he will slaughter every wildling at Castle Black. Let his men rape Sansa and beat Jon and Rickon to his dogs. Jon asks Tormund how many men he has available to fight, and Tormund replies he has 2,000 available fighters, far less the estimated 5,000 Ramsay has. Sansa says they have to try to retake their home and rescue their brother, and that the House of the North will unite behind Jon as the son of Eddard Stark, the last and true Warden of the North. Jon agrees to take Ramsay down. Yeah. Anyway, at Runestone, Robin Arryn trains at his archery with Lord Jon Royce. However, Robin is disappointed with his archery as he has a swordsmanship. Peter Baelish arrives with a retinue of Arryn guards and a pet falcon as a belated name day gift for Robin, much to his delight. Robin reminds Baelish that Baelish told him that he was taking Robin's cousin Sansa with him to the Fingers, where he received word that she had been married to Ramsay Bolton. Baelish tells him that on the way to the Fingers, he and Sansa were set upon by a large force of Bolton men. The confrontation between Peter and Royce ensues, in which Peter accuses Royce of giving away the information regarding the location of Sansa Stark to House Bolton. When Royce accuses Baelish of slander, Peter reminds him that Robin is the Lord of the Vale, and asks for his judgment. Robin then asks Baelish if they should throw Lord Royce from the moon door, which prompts the surrounding knights, including those loyal to Royce, to muster themselves. Royce swears his loyalty to Robin, and he's let off without punishment on Baelish's recommendation. Royce comes to the dark realization that Littlefinger has control over Robin. Peter and Robin decide they have to muster the Vale Knights to march north and aid Sansa. Anyway, at Winterfell, Osha is brought before Ramsay Bolton, who says that while her fellow captive Rickon Stark has valued to Ramsay, he is unsure of her worth. Osha denounces the Starks, saying that her servitude and loyalty to them were forced. She also attempts to seduce Ramsay, climbing onto his lap and kissing him, all the while trying to get the knife that he had been using to peel apples. Ramsay seemingly falls for it, saying that it took much longer for him to get Theon Greyjoy over to his side, but that Theon told him everything, including how Osha had seduced Theon in order to help Rickon and Bran Stark escape Winterfell. Osha realizes that she has been lured into a trap and tries to stab Ramsay, only for him to slash her throat first. He resumes peeling his apple complacently as she dies on the floor. Anyway, on Pike, Theon Greyjoy returns home to Pike, where he learns of the death of his father, Balon Greyjoy. His sister Yara is unhappy about his return and his early refusal to leave the Dreadfort when she made an attempt to rescue him from Ramsay Bolton. Theon explains that Ramsay broke him into 1,000 pieces, which Yara affirms. Yes, he sent us one of those pieces, referring to the box containing Theon's penis that she and Balon Greyjoy received. Yara suspects that Theon has come back to declare himself king of the Iron Islands, but he insists that he does not want the crown. Instead, he wants for Yara to rule, and offers to help her in any way that he can. Good on you, Theon, good on you. Anyway, in Meereen, Tyrion Lannister, along with Grey Worm, Missandei, and Varys, meet with representatives of the Good Masters of Astapor, the Vice Masters of Yunkai, and the slave trading city of Volantis, who have arrived by sea. As the diplomatic mission enters the harbor, Grey Worm advocates using military force. Tyrion explains that he is able to empathize with slaves because he spent one day as a slave. Missandei counters that he has not truly experienced slavery. The emissaries are Tyrion's former slave master, Yazen Kogaz, the Yunkai Westmaster Rasamel Eraz, and the Vlanti Triarch Beliko. And sorry, I'm mispronouncing this. Panemian. In their meeting chambers, Yuzan marvels that Tyrion has gone from being a nearly worthless slave to the de facto ruler of Meereen. The slave trading cities offer to give Daenerys Targaryen and her mercenaries a large pot of money if they sail away from Slaver's Bay. When Missandei defends Daenerys' actions in liberating slaves, Raziel contends that slavery has existed for centuries. Tyrion brings up that they do not require slaves in order to profit, noting that he matured with vast wealth to his Lannister name back in Westeros, where no slavery is sanctioned. Ronzo and Bleakio look at each other, insulted, but Yazan merely looks away from Tyrion. He appears to be contemplating the dwarf's words of maintaining livelihood without the use of slaves. After hearing their offer, Tyrion proposes a counter-offer. He offers to give them a 7-year grace period to phase out slavery and to compensate slave owners that way. Their eventual loss of slaves would not be so detrimental to them. However, they must end all backing for the Sons of the Harpy. He then cautions them that they will not get a better offer. Tyrion gives them time to consider his offer, but Guerrero and Missandei insist on abolishing slavery. Tyrion and his entourage are later confronted by a crowd of former slaves in the Marine throne room. A freedman wants to know when Daenerys will return, while another is appalled at the idea of Tyrion negotiating with slave traders. Tyrion says he's doing his best to rule the city in Daenerys' absence. The freedmen do not trust Tyrion, a foreigner and a newcomer, and look to Guerrero and Missandei for reassurance. Despite their misgivings, they both publicly back Tyrion's diplomacy in front of the freedmen. In private, Guerrero and Missandei warn Tyrion that the masters will outmaneuver him, despite his efforts to do the same to them. And finally, in Vasto Thrak, Jorah Mormont and Daario Naharis approach the outskirts of Vasto Thrak and discard their weapons, as drawing a blade in the city is considered sacrilege. Jorah estimates that there are 100,000 Dothraki in the city. On the city itself, Jorah and Daario run afoul of Aggo and Ego, who see through Jorah's claims to be a wine merchant. Daario takes care of Ego while Aggo tackles Jorah. The night is nearly undone, but Daario saves him at the last minute with the stiletto he smuggled in. As a precaution, Daario smashes Aggo's skull with a rock to disguise his use of a bladed weapon. Meanwhile, the High Priestess gives Daenerys a commentary on the other crones. Some of them hate Daenerys, thinking that the Dothraki should not interbreed with other races. The High Priestess dismisses them, stating that the Dothraki have always interbred and have never been concerned with blood purity. To illustrate her point, the High Priestess indicates another of the Khalein, a Lázarine girl Ornella, taken from her village at the age of 12. Daenerys asks to relieve herself. The High Priestess sends Ornella with her. As they walk, Daenerys learns Ornella's call died when she was only 16. The parent ordered by Jorah and Daario will take the Lázarine hostage. Daenerys, unsurprised to see them, cancels their plans for escape. They have some chance of leaving Vasto Thrak, let alone getting back to Breen, and tells them that she has a plan of her own. She asks Ornella if she's willing to help them, calling her Khaleesi instead of a Khalein. The girl reluctantly agrees. During that Kalar Visven, the cows argue about how to deal with Ego and Aggo's deaths. Khal diffuses the situation by reminding that Aggo was a member of his Khalasar, and he does not care about finding the killer if he was stupid enough to get himself killed. Daenerys is then brought in by the 2 priestesses she befriended before. Mora feels she should join the Dosh Khaleen, but Unthakal expresses interest in making her his Khaleesi. One suggests giving her to the wise masters in exchange for 10,000 horses. Daenerys dismisses all of them. She runs on her husband, in the same temple in which they all now sit, declare that he would lead a Dothraki army across the narrow sea to retake the Iron Throne for his Khaleesi. All they have done since is raid and plunder nearby villages. She declares that they are all petty and weak, and none of them are fit to lead the Dothraki, so she will lead them herself. After a pause, Mora and the Khals burst into laughter. Disgusted with her insolence, Mora decrees that instead of joining the Dosh Khaleen, she will be raided by each of the Khals, then by all their blood riders, and then, if she is still alive, by their horses. He mocks the notion that they would ever think of serving her. To Arthur's scorn, Daenerys' smile has not faltered at all. In fact, she seems to relish the thought. She calmly reaches over and clamps her hand on the basket of burning brazier, yet she doesn't flinch. The Khals' expressions turn to amazement and fear as they realize truly just whom they are dealing with. In a flat tone, Daenerys affirms them that they aren't going to serve, they're going to die. With these words, she topples the brazier, setting the floor of the hut alight in seconds. The Khals desperately attempt to escape the rapidly spreading fire. Under the temple's single door barred, the bodies of 2 men guarding it lying dead outside. Khal Mora's evil left as he turns to face Daenerys, who pushes the last brazier over in his direction. Khal Mora is engulfed by flames, and his screams don't last long. As the flames climb higher, the Dashkali and Khazars gather outside in confusion, watching their temple burn. Eventually, the doors collapse and Daenerys emerges, her clothes burned off her body but otherwise untouched by the flames. The entire leadership present in Vasto Thrak is now incinerated. Awed, horrified, and fearful in equal measure, the crowd of thousands bowed to Daenerys almost immediately, with the High Priest and the rest of Dosh Khaleen following after a moment. Jorah and Daario moved to the front of the crowd and bow as well. While Jorah has seen this once before, the normally affable Daario is utterly awestruck. And as he should be, so yeah. So overall, this is a really damn good episode, and yeah, it looks like Jon's gonna be setting up for the Battle of the Bastards, so that should be interesting. And yeah, what Daenerys did with everyone in Vasto Thrak, that was also pretty cool too. So yeah. And again, it's good to see that Theon is starting to redeem himself for what he did. So yeah. So overall, I give Book of the Stranger 4 Iron Thrones out of 5. Anyway, tune in more as we till the next episode, The Door. So, until then, remember everyone, winter is coming.